they don't really have that many places to run to, unfortunately for them. And for the moment, I think they're going to be as nomadic as the Shumungwe pride have been. I've never seen the Shumungwes. I've only ever really heard about them. But I know that they went through some similar experiences as the Salalas are at the moment, or at least this little group of the Salalas. Birmingham boys aren't really doing anything wrong. They're not, you know, it's part of their natural instinct to do this. It's just very sad because I know that I was, and I know many of the other viewers were rooting for the Salalas. And I hope the rest of them manage to escape unscathed. Just do a loop around here. It's also becoming more and more difficult to know where the animals are going. They're distributing quite far and wide just because of the lack of water. The treehouse is looking incredibly empty at the moment. It's got one tiny little mud puddle in the corner, but we're going to check there. Leopards, fortunately for us, are not too fussy about what they drink. They're not like elephants. Elephants are particularly picky. Hello, Impala. On the dam wall. I'm always a bit extra cautious driving along this dam wall. It's not the thickest road out here. Stop and watch. There's the little puddle that I was talking about. Oh, and a unicorn. An impala with one horn. I know that he has been seen quite a few times. It's actually not necessarily the same impala. It's quite common for them to have lost a horn. But I've regularly seen one with one horn on Chele Pan. It could well be the same guy. We spoke before about deformities that might actually confer an advantage on the animal concerned, and this is one example. I don't think it's a deformity. I think it probably broke at the base. Or maybe it didn't grow properly. Either way, he's definitely got an advantage. Although he's not protected on that side, he can angle his head in a way that makes that horn actually far more lethal than having two. Using it almost like a spear. And he could do some serious damage to the other members of the impala herd, the impala rams. Picture the ones that you saw fighting earlier this morning with Scott, and imagine that event happening with one-horned spear. You can just see how dangerous it could be. And then nibbling away not only at the bits of grass and plants that are growing around here, but they're also trying to get some of the salts from the mud. It's known as geophagia. They're licking the dirt. Just getting a little bit of extra calcium and a couple of salts, so a bit of sodium as well, to help supplement their diet. Very peaceful looking in the morning sun. They definitely don't look, however, like they have just seen a leopard. They're looking very calm and contented. So I don't think that he's come round this direction just yet. He could be on his way here. I don't see anything down here. Alright, let's continue on our way to Arathusa. Bye-bye, Impala. Do some careful jigging along the dam wall. I often wonder how much I miss when I cross this dam wall, because I really try not to look left and right too often, especially when it's wet. I slid down here once and I prefer not to repeat the experience. we think Birmingham got the Salala, the young Salala male, they were calling constantly. The Birminghams were calling in a way that I can't really describe, but it's a victorious, reaffirming kind of sound that male lions give when they kill opponents. Although not that he could really fall under the category of an opponent. But Auntie Lynn, you were wondering if they did kill him, would they eat him? You know that hyenas... Oh, Scott's got something exciting. Let's head across to him for now.
Look at this. It's a big male leopard. I'm not too sure who it is yet. We've just got a glimpse of him now. And we had returned to the vehicle due to the lack of good signal from the bushwalk. But I guess everything happens for a reason, and that helped lead us to this big male leopard. I'm guessing it could be Mvula, judging from the area that we're in. But let's try and get you a closer view of him. Very, very thick bush here. Oh, he's on the move again. And you may notice he's sporting a little bit of a limp. Not something I've noticed before, if it is in fact Mvula. Now to try and pick a path of least resistance. It's going to be tricky in this area. I'm also going to have to get onto the Game Drive channel quickly and just update the other guides that found it. So give me a moment while I do that. And most of the trees we're driving over here are going to pop straight back up as soon as we've got over them, so don't worry about that. Station located, large male leopard, is south of the Pools Road, but mobile towards flat. I'm hoping we're going to get you another glimpse of him. So go ahead, Andrew. It's just up ahead of us, and we should do shortly. Affirmative, male leopard, south of Hippo Pools Road, mobile towards Cheetah Cat Line. I'm just going to stop here and give you another quick glimpse of him, because we're going to battle to catch up with him through this thick bush. That limp doesn't appear to be as bad anymore. So maybe it's because he was sleeping on one leg and essentially had a dead leg that had gone numb. That'll be the best case scenario, or it could be that he has in fact been in a fight, which is also a reality. To be popping out onto Cheetah Cut Line shortly, so that means we should be able to get some frontal views of him. Just going to change course ever so slightly. Make sure the bush is okay, which it is. We're about to get some beautiful, beautiful views of him. So don't go anywhere. coming straight towards us. Now the only catch is that this is our eastern boundary that we've just turned onto. So as soon as he crosses over this, we are no longer going to be able to follow him. I'm on cheetah cut line now, just south of the purples. Okay, I can see him. He's still making his way towards us very slowly. And the best spot to stop is going to be just up ahead here. There we go. We may need to reposition once or twice more again, but he is coming generally straight towards us. This, everybody, is a massive male. Look at that dewlap, that extra skin hanging below his head and all the way down his stomach. Just going to creep forward a little bit more quickly. Looks very pale in colour, but maybe that's just because I haven't seen him for long, and I'm still fairly certain it is Mvula, but I could be wrong. So please feel free to let us know your thoughts, but I'm very confident that it is him. Now, Georgianne, Blair and Gilly all think that this is Tingana, and I don't think so. He's got very raggedy ears, unlike Tingana, and looks a little bit older. So to me, I'm fairly certain that it's Mvula, but let's get a few more of your opinions out, and maybe once you've had a closer look, you will be able to make a more calculated guess as to who it may be. If it is in fact Tingana, it means he would have pushed very far east into his territory. And it sounds like a few of you now, after having a closer look, are agreeing that it is in fact Mvula. I know Raisa and Blair have just sent through their thoughts. Absolutely beautiful big cat. He's not moving as fluidly as he usually does. Also appears his front left paw. Oh, it looks like he's going to scent mark here. There we go. A few little sprays. Now, sadly, we're not going to be able to follow him here. He has crossed east over this road, but at least we did get a glimpse of him this morning. And it's been quite some time that I've seen him, probably 2 or 3 months. Let me just reposition the vehicle ever so slightly and maybe just increase the quality of the view. As best we can. Wonderful stuff, and it's not going to be the first time we wave goodbye to Mvula heading east into Torchwood, but it was so good to see him again. And like I said, it's been a couple of months at least since I've seen him. And Chris Rogue and Marisha have agreed with that diagnostic feature I mentioned a bit earlier of those raggedy ears of his. He's got very torn up and notched ears. And each individual leopard will, most importantly, have its own set of spots, which will make it different to every other leopard. It's kind of no different to our fingerprints. But not only that, they'll also have kind of battle scars and scars on their nose, which help to distinguish them from others. And for those of you who are new to the experience, it'll be just more time and effort spent with these animals that you'll get to know them more personally. I'm not nearly as good at identifying the different leopards as some of you guys are all around the world. Wonderful stuff. And what a pleasant surprise after working. We're having a doing as we are, but we'll get there eventually. Speaking of technological issues, it sounds like it's time for you to head to Jamie because there's no signal from this vehicle.
Wow, how amazing was that? You got to spend some time with, I actually don't know who it was. Was it Mvula? It must have been Mvula, surely. Was it a big male? Oh, I'm so glad, Scott, got a leopard for you all, especially since we spent the first hour of our morning circling so close to leopard. That's fantastic news. And we do apologize for the quick link back to us, but we have made our way across to Arathusa and currently looking to see if I can follow up on the Birmingham boys. I can hear somebody talking on the Arathusa Game Drive channel, so bear with me while I just hop on and see if I can get any updates. Morning stations, Jamie WildEarth. Can I have updates, please? Copy that, thank you. What's the standby like for the Birminghams? Fantastic, thank you. I'll make my way there now. Whoopee! We don't even have to wait in the queue. That's epic. Let's go. Oh wait, hold on. Aw, wood hoopoes, that was not very fair. They're doing their display call where they do their rocking. They're still doing it in the tree ahead of me. There's no rush, guys. The lions are not moving. There they go, disappearing off. Alrighty, let's go find some lions. What a morning it has been. Apparently there's also a big buffalo herd wandering around here. So let's head across and see what the action is at the Arathusa airstrip. I better make sure I don't go too fast on this road. I'm not going too fast on this road is last time I nearly drove straight past Shadow, and it was up to Tex to get me to stop and go back because he spotted her. I'll slow down a little bit. She was around here, and this is where they heard growling days ago. So it could still be that there's a little bit of conflict between Shadow and maybe another female. It could. Now, I know that we saw that unicorn impala, and we have a question about it from a viewer who wanted to know, is that horn damaged for life, or do they grow back every year? And the answer is no, they will never ever grow back once they're damaged like that. Horns only grow once in an antelope's lifetime, and they grow continuously throughout the years. They're not like deer that shed their antlers and then regrow them from hardened blood vessels every year. It is a bony plate, a growth plate that they're born with that sits on the top of the skull and starts to deposit bone as that antelope grows up. And because it is bone, it is a permanent structure. So, I've just passed that wildebeest skull. I should stop for that. I'll look for a skull for you, because if you see them, if you ever find antelope skulls, the horns don't rot away or anything like that. They're permanently there. They're attached as part of that skull. And then what they're covered with, that black coating that you see on impalas with the ridges, that is keratin. So they're overlaid with a keratin sheath. And what you can actually do if you ever find a fresh antelope carcass is you can untwist the keratin sheath from around the bone. It's not very solidly connected. And I don't know if many of you remember from the Football World Cup or soccer. For us it's soccer, and I think for most of America it's called soccer, and Europe is football. But those vuvuzelas, those trumpet-like instruments that became very popular, that were introduced by South African fans, supposedly, at least in part, inspired by the tradition of getting hold of a keratin horn sheath and blowing down it. So having a little hole in the top and blowing down it. I've tried it before. It's really difficult to produce a sound. What they've started doing as well is making plastic vuvuzelas but shaped like kudu horns, so curled around like that. So a very interesting question that came through. As we go through this patch, things get a little bit crackly, and I don't always get your questions fully, or at least where they come from. But I think I have a question coming through from Bernie about the male leopards and the big dewlap that they have underneath their necks, and that you see really in the full-grown big territorial males. Bernie, to answer your question as to why they have those, they do have a physiological purpose, and it's quite similar to lion manes. So the male lions have those big fluffy manes that look so pretty, and they have them to act as an extra source of protection during a fight. And that big muscular neck and that dewlap of the male leopard helps to provide an extra flap of skin to protect the vital, the windpipe, the trachea, as well as all of those blood vessels running through his neck. So if he ever gets into a serious fight with another male and they grab at the neck in that chokehold that we see leopards demonstrate so many times on their prey, then they're getting loose flaps of skin and muscle, and they can protect their vital blood vessels in that way. Really amazing stuff. It's so cleverly designed. And it's interesting that leopards have gone the route of the dewlap, and male lions have gone the route of the mane. Sorry, I got distracted there. I saw a wheelbarrow in the staff village and thought I'd seen some kind of fascinating animal, but it was just a wheelbarrow. Had a quill stuck in his whiskers, and Granny Billy Joe, you were wondering whether or not the lodge vehicle got close enough to see if it was still there. I don't know. I've only ever seen Mbula once, from very, very thick bush. I still haven't seen him fully, so I haven't had a chance to double check, and of course not being at that sighting, I'm not too sure, but maybe we'll find out from the guests later, especially if they were from Buyatela or Gallagher. I'm not sure who was responding to that sighting first to join Scott, but maybe we can find out from them later if they got a good view of his face. I'm assuming at this point, I don't know how long it's been there, but I would have thought at this point it would have worked its way out. Quills, of course, porcupine quills can be quite a serious and debilitating injury for something like a lion or a leopard. And pulling them out, especially from around the face, a lot of the time when they bat them with their paws, they push them further in. Alright, let's go find these lions. There's nobody there to guide us in, so we'll have to figure this out on our own. Keep your eyes peeled. I hear reports that they are on the eastern side of the Arathusa airstrip. So we're going to do a loop around, see if we can spot them from there. Also heard reports of a herd of buffalo around them, so there's definitely the potential for an exciting morning ahead, since these boys are such renowned buffalo killers. Let's figure this out. Sounds like all of them are together still, so we should be able to find 5 male lions tucked away somewhere here. Driving past the completed Arathusa tarred airstrip, and animals love it. Oh, I think I've spotted them. I don't think it was going to be terribly difficult. I can see them. I'm fairly certain those are lions up ahead. Well, that was easy enough. The only slight flaw in this plan, unfortunately, is that I can't get from here to there without going round. Sadly, there's a bit of a dip. Although, it seems as though people have done it. No, they've done it. Maybe we can. We could do anything in Jigga. Let's go do it. Actually, let's go do it this way, I think. I feel a little bit less like I'm going to get stuck in a hole. I might get stuck on a log. They're so close. They're just there. Hold on a moment. No, we can do it that way. Definitely do it that way. It's much safer than finding ourselves stuck in a hole a couple of meters away from the lions. I'm sure that you guys would be terribly frustrated with me if I did that. Okay, so we cheated a little bit. We'll just keep that between us. How's that? It's okay, I wasn't the first person to cheat. I can see the tire tracks. There we go, the source of all the noise and commotion last night at the Arathusa Dam camera. News. Hal, who is signing in from Surrey for the very first time, you tell us that this is your first show and that you're already hooked. Well, I can promise you that it only gets better. We have some of the most amazing things to show you, and I'm glad you're joining us. And please send us through your questions. Don't be shy. We love hearing from new viewers as well as our regular viewers. Hello, you two. Where's the rest of your sorry lot? I see them. Let's start with you two. This current update is for the benefit of Hal and any other new viewers. You are looking right now at probably the creatures responsible for the most trouble that we've had over the last few months. The Birmingham boys. They're 5 young males. We've got the 2 here, and I will take you across to the other 3 in a moment. Now, in the last few months, we've been watching an incredible drama unfold on our soil. We drive around on Djuma and Arathusa and the Sabi Sands, and it's been the center of a takeover that's happened. That looks to me like it's definitely one of the younger boys. I always look for Scrapper when I see these lions, and his black eye. So for Hal, originally this area was under control of 2 older big males known as the Matimba males, the ginger male and hairy belly, and they were in control of this area as well as the couple of prides that were around here. It included the Nkuhumas and the Styx pride, as well as the Talamatis off towards the Kruger boundary. And within the space of a couple of months, all of a sudden these 5 young males came down. They'd been seen before, but flying under the radar, and suddenly they decided they were big enough and old enough to start acting on their natural instincts. And they pushed in, starting with conflict with the Matimbas, calling. We don't know if they ever came to physical blows, but they certainly roared at each other for a long time. And the Matimbas fled south towards Londolozi after a while, abandoning their prides. And now these young males came in, and because they're young, they're full of testosterone. They acted out with considerable amounts of aggression, very sadly killing 1 Nkuhuma lioness and 1 sub-adult, as well as all 3 young cubs from the Styx pride. They had cubs that were only a couple of months old. And that's all part of natural lion behavior. It happens with these pride takeovers. It's a way of nature's way of keeping the genetics fresh, but it was something that was very sad to watch. And unfortunately, we did get to see at least some of the results of that. But incredible to watch these dramas play out in their natural way. And it's taken these Birmingham boys a couple of months to really get settled. And they finally were seen mating with a couple of the Nkuhuma lionesses. I believe that they were seen mating with Styx lionesses as well, which is a sign that for the most part the drama is over on this side. And just when we thought things were settling down, the poor the poor Salala pride from Londolozi, where the Matimbas came in and took over, they fled the Matimbas into the clutches of the Birmingham boys. I think that's Scrapper at the back, actually. He's the young male. He's got a black eye on his left side, and he's been an interesting character. He's one of the youngest of the males. They're different ages, and he's definitely one of the youngest, and yet somehow has been the instigator of quite a great deal of the action that's happened. I know that he was the one carrying the cub around after he'd killed it. And when we saw that dramatic scene where they chased the Nkuhumas off the buffalo a couple of weeks ago, he was the first to lead the charge. It's interesting to see how their characters develop, and to draw a comparison between the Birminghams and the Birminghams and the Mapochos, the famous Mapocho coalition. Am I getting that right? Yes, I am. The younger Satan, or Mr. T as he was known, and Kinky Tail, they were two of the youngest. They were also known for their aggression, particularly on the side of Mr. T. It's interesting to see Scrapper, or Tokolosh as he's sometimes known as well. Interesting to see him developing the same characteristics. The Birmingham boys, also now known as the Gowrie males. And it's hard to imagine when they're lying down so very peacefully and up to so little that they could ever have been responsible for the carnage that we've seen. And unfortunately, we think very recently responsible for the death of a sub-adult Zalala male. And don't worry, Hal, or any of the new viewers, if you're not following just yet, you'll definitely catch up with the whole saga if you continue to watch our safaris. And that beautiful pink nose that we're looking at the moment, that is a sign of, for the most part, of a young lion. I know that there is some disagreement, and I've had it with certain people before as to the aging of lions in terms of the color of their nose. Let us put it as there is a general rule, not always followed, that the pinker the nose, the younger the lion, and it slowly darkens with age until they get to about 6 or 7 when their nose goes almost completely black. There are exceptions to that. That male that we've just looked at has a very pink nose, but if we compare it to the one at the back, he's got much more black around his nose. So you can understand that it's an interesting combination of genetics and the aging process in the sun. Best way to age a lion is to have a look at his canines. That being said, if you want to go and ask them if you can have a look at their canines, you're more than welcome. I'll leave that to you. And short of them yawning, I'm not going to be playing around in their mouths. Especially not his. Very interesting question that's come through. I mentioned that there is a herd of buffalo further up the airstrip, and that these boys are famed for their buffalo hunting skills. And we've got quite a complex question from virtual tours. He wanted to know if buffalo are the main food source for lions in wild safari areas, because we hear about them hunting buffalo so often. The answer to that is a bit more complex. Yes, especially for a group of 5 males like this, it will be very high up there in terms of their food options and their prey selection. It depends on, first of all, the size of the pride. Let's start with prides. So, for example, a couple of females, maybe 2 females moving about together, for the most part, they are not going to tackle a herd of buffalo. They could try and target the young ones, but it's not really worth the risk. And you'll find with their prey selection, they might go for something instead like a kudu or an impala instead of buffalo. Oh, big stretch. As he did that, he gave this soft little whine. I don't know if any of you have pet dogs when they stretch in their sleep and they do that little whining sound. He just did that. So hard to imagine that they are ruthless buffalo and lion killers when they look like this. Right, in terms of prey selection, as soon as you have one male or more with the pride or moving with the pride, then immediately they start to focus more towards the prey that they want to go for. Hunting buffalo is incredibly dangerous for lions. Buffalo are not helpless, they are not defenseless, and they do fight back with some serious weaponry. You guys have seen the base of those horns. You can just imagine the damage those can do if they hit the lions. So it is entirely possible that the lion could get seriously injured. And it helps to have at least one male on your side, because the males carry a good 100 kilograms more than the females in terms of bulk and strength. So for females on their own, it's not always worth the risk. but for males, with males, it definitely is. You'll see it with prides as well. Some prides specialize in certain types of prey, so they might specialize in buffalo. They could also specialize in killing giraffe. Very often what they'll do in the Kruger is to chase the giraffe forward onto tarred roads where the giraffe slip, and they've learned that that's an easy way to get them. And I'm going to continue this conversation, but I'm going to go forward just because one of the males has his head up at least. So maybe we can go and get a glimpse of his face. Try and put Tevs in a nice position here and myself slightly in the bushes so that we can get a nice view of them. I don't want to disturb them in any way, so bear with me as I do some maneuvering. And while I do, I've mentioned that we've got this airstrip in front of us. And Christopher, you were wondering if there's any danger to the animals if they're on the airstrip when a plane lands, and the answer is no, not at all. What will happen is they know when the planes are coming in, and somebody will come through and chase any of the animals off the airstrip before that plane lands. The animals get very used to it. They're very clever creatures. They learn fast. Now, I'll stop here for the moment, and then I'll get you a better view of the lions in a moment when the other vehicle has shifted away slightly. There's the other three. The eldest one closest to us with his big full mane, looking completely like sleeping cats. So yes, prey selection. These 5 males are experts in taking down buffalo. They've got an incredible amount of strength and size between the 5 of them, and it makes hunting buffalo worthwhile because each of these guys, when they do kill something, can probably devour, I would say, in the region of, I'd say 20 or 30 kilograms of food in one sitting, and they will gorge themselves. They need a lot of food to keep that those energy levels flowing. So they're definitely capable, they're definitely necessary for them to take down bigger pieces of prey or bigger prey items. The buffalo are quite far off in that direction. They're at the other side of the airstrip, but we'll head across there and have a look at them in a moment, depending on what these lions do. But they're looking very, very sleepy at the moment. Now, we were chatting a little bit about prey selection. The bigger the pride, the more mouths there are to feed, and therefore the bigger the food that you have to go for. And I'm going to shift around so that we can get a better view. Now, I've referred to them as the Gowrie males, not just the Birmingham boys. And Vernie, that's led you to ask the question, how far south have they been ranging? And yes, you're right, Little Gowrie is towards the northern boundary of Mala Mala, and they have, an angry elephant somewhere. Very cross elephant. Sorry, Vernie. They have ranged down into Mala Mala itself. They've also been onto Londolozi before. So at the moment, although they've established this as part of their core central territory, they have been exploring the options available to them. So they've been moving all the way down. And they can cover huge amounts of distances, and until they establish themselves fully, although I would say it's safe to say they're pretty much established here, until they complete that whole process, they're going to continue to range and continue to push the boundaries of the areas that they move around in, and test their neighboring male lions as well. Now, a coalition like this carries a serious potential to hold an enormous amount of area to protect and to guard. Hi guys, bye-bye. Good, cheers. We saw it, or I say we, I was not here, but I have heard about it and read about it, with the Mpocho coalition of 6 males. They actually held an enormous territory, almost too big in a way that they couldn't fully patrol and guard and look after. But they controlled, I think, something in the region of 50 to 60% of the Sabi Sands itself. That's about 60,000. The Sabi Sands on its own is about 60,000 hectares, and the Mpochos at the height of their time controlled probably in the region of 40,000 hectares of area. That's enormous. But it was because they had 6 males, and the Birminghams are showing a similar potential. Personally, what I think is going to happen over the next few months, possibly even the next few years, is they will establish a very large territory. The Majingulanis are getting old, so are the Matimba males. I know the Matimba males are getting old. As far as I understand, the Majingis are too. So they're going to start to be pressured by these Birmingham boys, and unless a challenge worthwhile. I know, Vernie, you mentioned that the Majingulanis were your favorite. They're an incredible coalition. They were eventually responsible for the... I just need to get onto the Game Drive channel. Please stand by. I have heard your reports about the wild dogs. There will be a lineup. As far as I know, the guys know about the wild dogs. Please just hang on one moment. Yeah, standing by. Somebody is trying to call me. I'm just waiting for them to finish their conversation. Station, who's calling me? Hi Peter, yeah, you're more than welcome. Stations, the report of the Madash at Safari Mati. What's the lineup for that? Copy that. I'd like to take that standby. Thank you. Alright, we're going to have to keep concentrating. There is a lineup for the wild dogs. I know that you guys are seeing them on the Arathusa Dam camera, but the other guides are heading across there first. So I'm going to have to double check. Teresa, Lynn and Colin, thank you for all of your updates. I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel to hear the various updates that are happening around here, because I just need to hear where the wild dogs are moving first. Okay, I've missed the update, but that's okay because we're on standby, so they're going to call us in when we have an opportunity to go in. We just need to make sure we know the correct approach to get there. Alrighty, let's have a look still at these males. There's no point in rushing off until we have an opportunity to join that sighting. We'll have one last look at these beautiful Birminghams, and then I'll start heading in the direction of the wild dog. Beautiful boys in the morning light. Now it's going to take us some time. I'm going to have to head in the direction of the wild dogs and then stick around the area until they call me in to join their sighting. For those new viewers watching and you're not quite sure what I mean by that, essentially we only allowed 3 vehicles at every sighting, and that's to make sure that the animals are not put under any kind of pressure. We don't stress them out in any way, and it's really important that we control that. So every guide that is working around here and driving around here must have an opportunity to go and see the animal before they move off. So I'm going to leave these lions now, and I'm going to start heading in that direction, but we're still going to have to wait for our turn to get to see the the wild dog. Sorry, radio language in my head. Madach is the name we use to refer to wild dog on the radio. Doug, how are you? Good, thanks. Yeah, I know, been rushing around. Cool, enjoy. Cheers. Cheers, guys. Now, I know that Auntie Lynn, you never heard my response because we got distracted by that leopard sighting that Scott had in terms of the cannibalism of the lions. You asked whether or not, if the Birminghams did kill that young Solana male, whether or not they would have eaten him. Stations leading the 5 Birminghams, still Lalapanzi, same position with Doug. Okay, so answer to Auntie Lynn's question, finally, you don't have to wait anymore. The answer is yes, they might have, to an extent. Hyena cannibalize for food. Male lions, as far as we can tell, because cannibalism is something that's quite rare in lion society, but male lions have been recorded to eat other lions, and it's usually almost like a sign of victory, in a way, if that makes sense. It's a way of establishing their dominance. So when the Birminghams killed that one in Kahuma female, they did feed on her a little bit. And it's got less to do with food and more to do with a way of really having a resounding victory in that respect. It is an interesting situation. It doesn't often happen, but it does happen with male lions in the middle of a pride takeover. Around the airstrip again and find out when our options are open to us as to getting into that wild dog sighting. Luckily it does seem as though they're lying down. And just to finish up our topic of conversation, as gruesome and as upsetting as it can be, Arcadia, you were wondering if there's confirmation that I think this might be me. Sorry guys, bear with me. Okay. I just have to wait for my chance to actually talk on the radio. And to finish up the question while I'm driving to the wild dogs is Arcadia's question, is it confirmed that the Birminghams killed the Solana male? The answer is no, it's not. We haven't ever found his body. I would say, personally, from my perspective, I would say there's a 90% chance he was killed by the Birminghams, and maybe, at most, at best, a 10% chance that he is wandering around lost somewhere, that he got separated from the pride. Of that female that was with them a couple of days ago when you saw them with Scott. And Vince, you're watching from Texas, you wanted to know what happened to her. The morning that Scott had the Birmingham boys, she actually upped and left. I'm not quite sure why. I'm not sure if she wasn't quite in full estrus, but she walked across quarantine clearings at about 10:30, 11 in the morning. We were just busy taking down a tent that we had up in quarantine, and we just watched a lioness casually walk past and disappear off. I think it is the same lioness that was then seen on Arethusa at the dam that evening. So she definitely isn't still with the Birminghams. I'm not sure what's happening there. Whether or not she was not in estrus, she might have just been accompanying them. She might have been coming out of estrus. I honestly don't know. But it doesn't seem as though she's in full estrus, or they would be with her all the time. She'd be with them all the time. That's just how the natural instinct works. Excited to go see wild dog. Just have to wait our turn. Wow, it seems as though Shannon has been counting wild dogs, and there is maybe 40, that's terrible English. There are 14 maybe even more. Maybe it's the Sands Pack. I've never seen the Sands Pack. I've only ever heard about them. And know that they've been right on the boundaries of our Traverse area over the last few days, and I've been listening to them on the radio talking about the wild dog. Oh, this is so exciting. We're going to go find out. I know this is a topic for hot debate, but never fear, we will find out. And Nancy, you suggesting that it is the pack with 11 pups, so our pack that we see regularly at Buffelshoek Dam. And while we head across and have a chance to find out exactly who it is, let's head across to Scott and find out what he's been up to. I'll be back with you very shortly with your wild dogs.
What an amazing morning it's turning out to be. A big male leopard, 5 male lions, and now possibly a pack of wild dogs. So you guys must be thoroughly enjoying yourselves. I wonder which pack of wild dogs it is. There's 2 different packs that are running around Arethusa or that general area over the last few days, so it'll be interesting to see when you guys get there. And I must say, I am somewhat jealous of you, because it's been months since I've seen wild dog, whereas you guys have been getting spoilt over the last few weeks with a number of different sightings. We've been following a different set of male leopard tracks. Looks like a slightly younger male, possibly the same young male that Jamie got a glimpse of yesterday, and there was rumors that that was Kunyuma. And no luck establishing exactly where those tracks went, but we did follow them for a while. They headed to the area of Treehouse Waterhole, and from there we couldn't be sure where they went. And now we've decided to give the backpack one last try. So we're heading into an area where we know that we've had good signal in the past, and we're just going to do some tests to see if there is in fact still good signal there, or if there are some other problems in the backpack. Great questions just come through from Granny Billy Joe in Florida, and she remembers seeing Mvula a week or so ago, maybe longer. I can't remember when you guys saw him exactly, but he had a porcupine quill lodged into his throat or neck, and she was just wondering if the other game drive vehicle managed to get a close-up view of him to see if that quill was still lodged in his neck. And no, not that I heard of, Granny Billy Joe, and I did speak to Andrew, the guide from that lodge who was in the sighting. They lost him shortly after we had to leave, which is generally the case because their vehicles are quite big and not as easy to maneuver off-road. So they lost him, and I think even in the views that we had of him Again, I don't know how much it was protruding from his neck, but it didn't look like he did have anything like a porcupine quill to deal with. So I guess that's good news. And who knows, maybe that's why he was limping a little bit from his tussle with the porcupine, Africa's largest rodents, and certainly Africa's most spiky rodents as well. Okay, you guys are about to jump onto Jamie's vehicle. She's about to approach the wild dogs. Good luck. I hope you get some good views. And we're going to rig up the backpack while you're gone.
How exciting! Here we go. There's our doggies. Hello, puppies. Let's go find out who we've got. The guys have very kindly let us into the sighting. It is in hot demand, so we can't spend as much time with them as we have in the past. But I'm going to loop around. I'll stop here because they're playing. Alright, let's try and do a count and we'll get a nice visual in a moment. But let's just stop here and look at them quickly. All playing with each other.
Go around.
How's it? Yeah, I will do. Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Awesome. Puppies. Turn my volume down on the Cape Drive channel. Oh, this is wonderful. Just scoot around. This looks like our Investec pack with the 3 adults and the pups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I was wrong, there's 20 wild dogs here. This is incredible. I'll stop here for now so we can watch them playing with each other. Hear them squeaking. There's some water buck off at the back, so there's a chance they might go for them, but let's watch them play for now. Ooh. 20 wild dogs, I think possibly more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 wild dogs. You hear them squeaking. That's amazing. And he's playing that little squeaking sound, that's a submissive sound. And you can actually see the adult at the back playing with them. That's an adult playing with the pups. Jessica, you were wondering about that sound, whether or not it's the sound of the adults making to the pups to round them up. The answer is no, it's coming from the pups themselves and they're being playful. I know we don't have the clearest view, but don't worry, we've got so many wild dogs here, we just don't know where to look. It's incredible. I think I've counted 21. I think that's my final count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 adults. And then a whole load of puppies. 10 puppies maybe. I had no idea this pack was so big. How amazing. Now the previous pack that we were seeing before, or we have seen around Buffelshoek, has got 11 pups and only 3 adults. Here we've got about half adults, half pups. And Jessica, you were wondering if it's common to see more pups than adults in a pack. I'm sorry, I was about to move out of the way for another car, but the car has stopped for now. And the answer is that it is. Oh, I don't know. No, it depends on the pack itself, because it might have just had a dispersal moment. Sorry, I'm just thinking this through and trying to concentrate on the wild dogs wandering around. Sure. What a stunning visual. Oh, guys, sorry to interrupt Jessica's question. You did hear sounds of leopard mating. I'm going to try and find out who it was. They're not on the property, but you did hear sounds of leopards mating on the Arathusa Dam camera last night. There are leopards mating around here. So that was what you heard. Well done. Very, very well done to our viewers who picked up on that sound. All right. Okay, so Jessica's question. The average of pups can be from 13 to 20 individuals in a litter, and that's the average. So they are capable of producing really, really big litters. So for an answer to Jessica's question, in terms of if it's common to have more pups, it can be, depending on how young the pups are. They just have such a high mortality rate that the wild dogs need to breed as rapidly as possible. And I know that James has mentioned this before, about the fact that most animals within the Kruger Park, so the studies done, have shown that they don't live past 5 years old. And that is something worth remembering, that life out here is very tough for a wild dog pack. I'm actually going to shift backwards now. We've got these wonderfully flat adults, but I want to try and loop around to get the pups. So bear with me for one moment. We do have a limited time period with these wild dogs. We're going to have to pull out in a moment. So I'm going to go and get us a nice view of the pups, and then we're going to have to leave so that we can bring other vehicles in. As you can imagine, a sighting like this is very much in demand. You're watching in Montana and you say you can't believe how big these pups are getting. They must be eating dirt. They do grow so fast. This is not a pack I've seen before. I've never seen these animals before. Definitely never seen a pack of 21. But the wild dog pups do grow incredibly fast, partly because their parents are such really effective hunters. And Lynn, you were wondering about the sound that they make, and that's actually also partly to do with how well the puppies grow and how these animals operate. Stop here so we can watch the pups. That sound we heard, Lynn, could well be begging from the pups. That is how wild dogs operate. And we're going to run across in front of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pups. I can count 9. I think there's 10. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh my word, I can't keep count. Please keep count for me, see if you can. There's just so many wandering around all over the place. So that sound that they make, those little yelping squeaks, that can be a begging sound. It's something that wild dogs practice from the very beginning. That begging sound for food. My word, this pup just walked straight under my tire. He literally walked under my bonnet. That is how used to people these animals are. It's like I didn't even exist. Natasha, I think this is the Sands pack. The Sands pack is in Sabi Sands. I think this is who they are. Oh, it's so wonderful that our endangered species are managing to reproduce at the rate that they are. These dogs are so endangered. And Trent, you were wondering how many pups there are on the Sabi Sands. If you saw some on the Nkoro cam this morning. What's up, buddy? Trent, I honestly don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to move my head out of your way. I really, but it's fantastic to see at least 3 groups with 3 sets of pups. The Investec, I think the Half-Tail pack has pups as well, and the Sands pack. So just within our area, the wild dogs that we get to see. Alright guys, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I think we have to pull out of this sighting. If we can, I will try and make my way back in. But what an incredible time we got to share, just however brief it was, with this pack. Let me just hop on the Game Drive channel and clarify. Stations, how many vehicles are still waiting for a spot at the Madash? Okay, copy. Next vehicle on standby. If you want to approach, I'll make my way out of the sighting. Wonderful, thank you very much. Copy that. You may make your way in. We'll stay with them until you get here. Okay, let's try and keep with them for our last few moments. Experience. I know it was short-lived, but to see 21 of the endangered animals that we get out here, there's maybe 500 wild dogs in South Africa, and you're seeing 21 of them. Now, the fact that they've left their den, Carol, I think that means that they're no longer nursing, and they're making that begging sound that they made earlier. Try and shift forward a little bit. That begging sound that they're practicing, that they're making, that's to get the parents to regurgitate food. So they are weaned at a very young age. Wow. We've still got them all to ourselves for the moment. There's just doggies everywhere. We are so lucky to have this experience, even if it is brief. Look at those ears, those giant ears. So they've left the den, they're now moving with the pack, which means that the adults are capable of bringing them food, and they will do. Let me rephrase that. They don't have to bring the food as far. Pups can eat along with the rest of the pack, and it's amazing how subservient wild dogs are. So the alpha pack will get to eat, the alpha pair will get to eat, and the pups don't have to, like lions, they don't have to try and fight for their share of the food. They just have to beg, and the adults will let them come through and eat part of the kill. Oh. Interesting question from Lisa, because these dogs have such incredible subservient behavior. There's hardly any aggression. It's not at all like watching lions or something like that. You were wondering if they would fight if another pack came around, and the answer is yes, probably there would be some aggression. They do have their territorial areas, but the borders are not fixed. So they can move around fluidly within each other's areas, but I think if they did encounter each other, there'd be lots of growling. But for the most part, they will try and avoid each other. Wild dogs are not confrontational creatures for the most part, which is why they're one of my favorite predators to see out here. Sorry, head's in the way. Look at them go! Gambling away. Oh, wild dogs are just never boring. And Barbara, you were wondering if waterbucks are too big for them to eat, because they did ignore those waterbuck that was standing close to them, and I think the answer is yes. They also might not be too hungry. All right, guys, we have to go, I'm afraid. I'm really sorry. I know it's a wonderful sighting, but we've got to share it equally with the guys who called us in and made space for us. So we're going to head out. If we're lucky at the end of the drive, then we can come back and return to them. But we're going to have to leave them for now. And while we do that, we're going to head back across to Scott and see what he's up to. I will be back with you a little bit later.
Hello everyone, and what a morning. Leopard, lion and wild dog. I'm not too sure when last that did happen. Possibly it hasn't even happened once in the whole year that we've been here, that all three of those predators have been seen on the same drive. Now, speaking of predators, we've just stumbled upon the home of another predator. It's a very small predator, and it's been living within this log. It's a hardwood log that's managed to resist the attacks from termites and other animals and create a home for this predator. Now, what I'm going to do is, I haven't seen any evidence of the predator still being here, but what I have found are these little white rings, and these are from the body segments of a millipede. And there's only one animal really, or one insect really, that will feed heavily on millipedes, and that is the scorpion. Not an insect, rather an arachnid. And the reason why I know that it's a scorpion is that scorpions like to live in old wooden logs like this with lots of cracks and crevices to hide in, and they also love feeding on millipedes. Like I say, they're capable of feeding on millipedes who usually have very toxic or poisonous bodily fluids that most other animals cannot process. So nice to know that there's a scorpion living in here, just from seeing his rubbish that he's disposing of when he's finished feeding on these millipedes. And we probably won't be able to see him, and the reason for that is we'd have to rip open this log in order to do that. Now, so happy that you're back on the bushwalk with us. We've got some good signal here apparently. I forgot my ash bag this morning, which is filled with campfire ash that helps us find out wind direction. So I've just picked up these tiny little balls, which are droppings from a steenbok, and on breaking them up with my finger, you may be able to see that there's a very fine powder. Oof, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but you can just see it. There's a very fine powder blowing from my right to my left, your left to right, in that direction. So we're going to keep heading kind of into the wind. It's not imperative that you always walk into the wind, but it's just good to know what the wind is doing in case you bump into some dangerous animals like elephants or buffalo. Certainly possible. There's a lot of buffalo tracks here. I'm guessing it's from a large herd that's moved through the area recently. Also some sign of elephants on our left here. What's interesting about this is that it doesn't look like your typical elephant dung, and the reason for that is it's not in a little brick or a ball. It's been broken up and ruffled up, and there was probably 4 or 5 balls of dung here initially, but now, thanks to insects, probably dung beetles, they've spread all of them apart and it just looks like one big dropping. But this is in fact from elephants, and if you start looking into the dung, you'll find little twigs like this. It's a decent sized little branch or twig, along with a lot of other different parts of the plants, little pieces of grass and roots. Here's a little piece of grass. So lots of different parts of vegetation will be fed on by elephants. Leaves as well, of course, will be fed on. None of which are really broken down very well. They don't have the best digestive system out here, so they require on feeding on large amounts of vegetation. Now this isn't wasteful, because a lot of other animals will come in after the elephants and further break down this vegetation and use everything up effectively. But as we walk through the bush, we keep in mind the wind, we look at the tracks, we look at the droppings around us, and that way we get an idea of who's been here recently, who we could expect to bump into. But regardless of what we think we may bump into or who we think we might see, we must always be ready for the worst. Because if you are walking towards animals that haven't been in this area, you obviously won't have any tracks or sign that they've been here. And obviously I've got VM's
health and well-being as a responsibility to look after. So as we're moving through the bush, I'm taking heed of where there are potential escape routes or areas to seek refuge. Big termite mounds are always good places to go in times of trouble. Quite a nice open area this though, so you can see quite far, and obviously the further you can see, the less likely you are to startle any animals. The wind's just started to really pick up, and we're going to have to factor that into our equations. Vim, if you just come a little bit closer here. I was hoping we were going to get lucky. There was a steenbok, which is naturally a very shy animal, that wasn't going to hang around for long, but I thought it was worth having a try. It was just up ahead of us before it darted off. So this is what the elephant dung is supposed to look like. So compared to what you saw earlier, you'll notice that this is a lot different, and a regular kind of bolus of elephant dung. A lot of the droppings from winter, when there's not lots of insects around, will remain like this until, of course, termites start feeding on them, and they'll start feeding from them from the ground upwards, and eventually this will become completely recycled, which is good to know. Like I said, everything does get used out here. And we've been chatting a lot about dung and the effects insects have on dung, and Derek has just asked if there's any chance we could find a dung beetle. Derek, I'm certainly going to try my best and would love to. There don't seem to be that many out, and I'm not sure if that's a result of the low numbers of water and rain that we've had this season. So that could be a contributing factor to the lack of dung beetles we've seen. With more rain on the ground, it may cause them to emerge, but because we're experiencing a little bit of a drought, that may be why we're not seeing as many dung beetles as usual. Seen a dark shape in the bush there, but it's just a fallen down tree. I thought it may be a buffalo sleeping for a moment, but nothing to worry about there. But you're right, Derek, if we do find a dung beetle, it's going to be absolutely wonderful viewing with the camera that VM's got, because we're going to be able to get you some low angles, get right up close to those dung beetles, closer than we've ever got before from the vehicle. So that really is something to look forward to, and it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful experience when it does in fact happen. The first thing we need to find, though, everybody, is some steaming fresh dung. The dung beetles are a little bit fussy, and they only use the freshest of dung to roll up their little balls that they will use to lay their eggs in. It's a perfect larder to leave their youngsters with as they hatch and then grow up. And I think I've only seen one dung beetle this whole summer season so far, and it was shortly after the first rains we got in early October. That took us all by surprise. I want to try and just show you some of these buffalo tracks. They are just everywhere here on the ground. no different to a cow's track. They've got bicloven hoof, so that's the one half and then the other half of the hoof. And there's just tracks everywhere of a very large herd of buffalo moving in the same direction that we're moving in. Not very fresh, but still useful to keep in mind and just to know what's going on in your general area. Oh, I wonder what's in this little... I wonder, we might actually be able to get you a view of some of these very pretty birds that are flittering about in the tree. It's not going to be easy, and Viam's got a lot going on. The big backpack, free-handing. There we go, there's the white-crested helmet-shrike. They're very, very pretty birds. And they may pop out into another little opening. Here we go. Wonderful. Look at that bright yellow ring around their eye. And that funny little crest on top of their heads. Off they go. They fly in small family flocks, the white-crested helmet-shrikes, and we do have a cousin of theirs here as well called the Retz's helmet-shrike. Now, I just noticed an excavation in this termite mound up ahead of us. It's always worth being a little bit cautious when approaching these, so it's best to approach to kind of one side in case something comes barreling out of there like a warthog. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to creep up here, poke my head in, come take a closer look. It looks like it's safe for closer exploration, and if you poke your head in there and have a look, you'll notice that there's quite a few little spider webs, a lot of leaves and foliage on the pathway, and that gives you an idea that it's not heavily used, so it's probably inactive at the moment. If there was no leaves and no spider webs in there, that would be a good sign that it's being heavily used. There's a lot of traffic coming in and out, and it's best to kind of steer clear of these little excavations. Anything could be in here: porcupine, warthog, even hyena. And we are just testing things, so sorry you're losing signal intermittently. Now, Mo in Chicago has just asked why a termite mound would be a good place in case we got ourselves into danger. And Mo, as I'm standing up here, for an elephant or even a buffalo, once you're up on this high point, it becomes a little bit awkward for them to get at you, and naturally anything that's high up looks more big and dangerous than it actually is. So if I was shouting and screaming and waving my arms down at you, I'm going to look more intimidating from up here than if we swap positions. I'm going to get Viam to come up here, and I'm going to go down, as opposed to me being down here going, hey, hey, hey. I'm not sure what you think looks worse, when I was on top or down at the bottom, but it's just a good vantage point to be on, Mo. Not your perfect cover, and again, it depends what scenario you are getting yourself into. That's the most important thing and the most difficult thing to understand about being on foot in Africa. And I guess about a lot of the questions you guys ask us. There are so many variables in each different equation and situation that there's no set rule or set answer as to how you should behave in any given scenario. Each scenario will be different. There will be different escape routes, different amounts of animals in a herd that may be charging you. So you only got kind of rough guidelines to work off. The rest you just have to go with your gut feeling on the day that any event that is dangerous happens. Good. And Derek's still interested to know a little bit more about dung beetles and whether they're part of the scarab family. They are indeed, and you get many different types of scarab beetles. The dung beetles, I'm fairly certain, are falling into that scarab family. I remember tracking the Birmingham males, those same 5 males that you saw earlier, through this area. We didn't manage to find them that day. It was highly frustrating, but it was exciting stuff following their tracks through here. And it's great how you do build memories over the weeks and months working in any given wilderness destination, to the point where just about any road you drive down or any area of bush you walk through, you're having kind of pleasant memories of what's happened along the way. What I'd really like to bump into now is a big elephant bull. They are one of the best animals to approach whilst on foot, because their eyesight isn't great, and on a windy day like this it would be easy to get the wind in our advantage and get quite close to them, which is quite a rush. They are also less inclined to want to charge and attack, or less so than the female elephants, who often have young that they will protect very viciously if need be. This is quite interesting. I'm wondering how this got here. This is a little piece of a termite mound, and you can see all the little holes and little burrows where the termites would have been moving through this earth. But I'm guessing an elephant or some kind of a large animal like that must have carried this away from a termite mound. There's a very big termite mound up ahead of us here. Let's see if it's maybe not from there. I can't seem to see anywhere nearby here where it would have come from. Incredible to think that this earth was all flat, completely flat, once upon a time. But now it's probably 8 or 10 feet tall, a massive, massive solid structure, all built by tiny, tiny insects. Absolutely fascinating. There's also a beautiful big marula tree that I'm sure has housed many a leopard in its lifetime. Such an easy tree for the leopards to climb, with a nice slanted trunk, and perfect spots for them to jump up onto and then carry on up into the tree. But no clear sign of any claw marks here. Well, we're going to continue on this walk and see if we can find you anything interesting, because Jamie has found you another wonderful animal that she'd like to show you. Enjoy.
Sorry we disturbed them, but...
Welcome back, guys. I'll be with you in 1 second. Give me 1 second. Are you rushing off to the...
Yeah, we're going to go to the dash now.
Cool.
Sorry,
have a wonderful time. No problem. Cheers.
Enjoy it.
Bye.
Cheers.
Sorry, guys. We just had to have a quick chat with the landowners from Buffelshoek. Fantastic to meet Hilton and his family. They're heading across the wild dogs. Now, it was sad to leave them, but it's so important that we make sure everybody gets a chance to enjoy their time with them. And this place is just pumping this morning. We've got a herd of ellies. It's all right, little one. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. All right. I've stopped here. Promise. Shame if this place has been a highway today. Hey, cars just coming past all the time, and you don't know why. All right, little one. Let's see. Nice and relaxed again. And start feeding little male, but he's going to have some big tusks when he's older. He's already got some seriously thick ones at the base. Hey, little boy, what you digging for? He's still not quite sure how he feels about us sitting watching him, so we're just going to sit nice and quiet. I'll keep my voice down. Yeah, twisting his trunk, giving us a beautiful view of his mouth. Look at him wrapping his trunk around his tusk. I think that was the equivalent of an elephant yawn, saying, "Hey, you boring." That was amazing. Just looking straight down into an elephant's mouth. Could this day get any better? Hey boy, it's alright. I know there's been lots of traffic. Twisting and curling his trunk, showing signs that he doesn't quite know what to do. He wants to come and give us hassles. So instead he's going to take his frustration out on the vegetation around him. He's going to kick the log. Maybe he's got an itchy ankle. I think he's showing us his dissatisfaction. It's alright, boy. Still showing the signs of displacement behavior. Teenage boy, not quite sure. He wants to tell us off, but he's not quite brave enough. So he's going to suck his trunk instead. In the mouth, straight in the mouth. That's a comfort sign. It's almost like sucking his thumb. Yes, boy. You are beautiful. He's now going to pick up the dead log. He's giving us a show. Perfect displacement behavior. He doesn't want to eat that. That's dead. That's gross. But he's going to put it in his mouth as a way of distracting from the fact that we're here. Are you going to throw that at me? I've got the strange feeling you want to. Please don't throw it at me. Thank you. That would be quite the experience to complete the day, having a dead tree thrown at you by an elephant. You can see all those scratches along his ears and along his sides. That's just from walking through thick vegetation, things with thorns and sticks. Doesn't hurt him in any way. Hello, boy. You're going to come talk to us. Look at those beautiful eyes. Yes, little one. So all those scratches you can see on his side, they're not in any way breaking the skin. His skin is so thick, just from pushing through into thick vegetation. Now the rest of the herd is in the block, but because of his proximity to the road, I'm not going to push to try and get to see them. But that was such special behavior that we got to see. He's relaxed now he's genuinely feeding. But up until then, all of that play with the log, with the dead branch, putting his trunk in his mouth, that's all known as displacement behavior. And it's his way of working out exactly what he wants to do about our presence here. That's why I really, absolutely cannot get enough of elephants. They've just got so many little intricate aspects of their personality. And the rest of them are moving through. It's thick vegetation. I'm going to try and get us a nice view. I am listening to the Game Drive channel to wait and see if we have an opportunity to go back to those wild dogs. But there's still quite a few vehicles waiting to see them, which is why it was important for us to leave when we did. But we had the most incredible experience with them. 20 wild dogs. Oh, I have a message for you. I did some research. Unfortunately not on our property, but our poor boy Tingana has been roped once again into the shenanigans of the leopardesses around the area. He's mating with Shadow. So you did hear sounds of mating last night, or possibly the prelude to mating. Poor old Tingana has not had a break of more than a week in probably about 2 months. The ladies are keeping him busy. He's obviously in demand. Now, I know that James has mentioned this before. I'm going to phrase it slightly more delicately. I hope that pregnancies are going to result from these mating sessions. He has been so in demand that it does lead one to wonder about his ability to keep up, as it were, in terms of production. Hello, girl. Okay, girl, I'm stopping here. Nice big female gonna walk out in front of us with her calf in tow. I think this is, sure, it was a while ago, but if you remember Tara Perry's last drive, I think this is the same herd. I've definitely encountered these elephants before. And elephants are such characters. There have been some suggestions that the elephant bull was in fact flirting with me. I guess that's a possibility as well. If he was, then he was doing so very successfully. I find myself totally won over by his antics. Completely and utterly in love with him. We just won't tell Brent that. Alright, let me shift forward a little bit so we can see this lady and her calf. What a special day. There is still that herd of buffalo on the Arethusa airstrip, and it sounds as though they have crossed, so I didn't forget about them. We've just been so spoiled for choice this morning. Hey girl. Alright. I'm stopping. They've had quite a few cars driving past them, and I would say quite a few cars making their way to Wild Dogs might not be paying the same amount of attention to their surroundings as possible. So I think the elephants have been a little bit unsettled by the comings and goings. I really want to show you that calf trying to use his trunk. It's something we've chatted about a lot. Baby elephants in their trunks. So let me try and shift forward for you so we can watch his coordination. There we go. The elephants, when I say they're unsettled, I don't mean that they're going to cause us any trouble. It's just that they're a little bit more skittish than usual, so I'm giving them plenty of space. Just letting you know that's why I'm not getting too much closer. There's our baby coming through. Oh, don't turn your back on us, little one. You can watch him use his trunk and get that coordination going. And Jerry, myself, and Viam enjoyed an incredible sighting with this particular lot, and I think it's the same baby attempting to use his trunk in a successful manner. One of the viewers asked at which age they learn to use their trunks. They use their trunks sort of around, they start very, very young, but they don't really master them in the same way their mothers do until they're much older. And I'm talking sort of around 3 or 4, that they really get to grips with that funny thing on the end of their nose, or that is their nose. It's a beautiful female, the mother of the calf. She's got nice, long, symmetrical tusks. She really is gorgeous looking. Munching away at something that we would struggle to even touch. Baby leadwoods and spike thorns. Doesn't matter to her. We saw that little teenage boy elephant, the little bull, and Barbara, you've suggested that that displacement behavior and teenage bullying, which they do, elephants do bully. They throw their weight around when they're teenagers. You've said that's definitely signs of flirting, just like boys pulling the hair of girls that they actually kind of like. I think you could be right. I'm not sure I'm his type though. We'll have to see. Maybe he'll come back and flirt once again. But for now, we've got this beautiful female. I wonder what she thinks as she watches the antics of the young elephants. I wonder if she thinks like we do when we see kids playing. Something she's seen it all before. She's seen all that behavior before and smiles at them indulgently. That's what she does in my head anyway. Might be a little bit too anthropomorphic. I might be stretching it a little bit. But nice to imagine, and I certainly think that they're more than capable of demonstrating similar human behaviors. These are going to move off into thick bush. We're not going to be able to get another good visual, unfortunately. Sure, what a whirlwind of a day. I'm going to stop here. I don't want to push too far behind them. I think it might just upset them. I'm going to leave our elephants for now. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, see if we can get back onto the lineup for the wild dogs. Maybe we can pop our noses in for the last few moments of the sunrise safari. But in the meantime, let's head to Bushwalk and see what they're up to. I will catch up with you in just a few moments.
So we are about to finish a big loop. It's going to get us back into the general area where we left the vehicle. Haven't come across too much. It's quite hot already, and I think that's a contributing factor as to why the wild dog you saw earlier were sleeping, and a lot of the animals have already started to wind down for the midday summer siesta. Although good places to be during the hotter hours of the summer months would be waterholes, because they tend to be quite active. But sadly, we're nowhere near one now, otherwise we definitely would have headed across there. What have we here? Now, earlier on, we were talking about dung beetles, and I'm not too sure what this is just yet. I thought it could be, it feels like it's some kind of a fruit actually. I thought it was a bolus of dung that had been rolled up by the dung beetles. There's usually nothing else that's this round and this size, but this to me looks like, oh, here we go. I'll be able to explain this very shortly. What's happened here, this little round ball used to be in a very small cavity in the ground over here. And what would have happened is a porcupine would be the only animal that would be interested in feeding on this, would have dug it out, and it's taken a few bites out of the bark or the outer layer of this little bulb, but it obviously wasn't very tasteful, and that's why it's left it here, just on the surface of the ground like that. So interesting to see that one of Africa's largest rodents has been hard at work here. They're mainly nocturnal in this area, so we don't get to see them often. We actually haven't managed to show you one in the year that I've been here, but we were talking about one a little bit earlier because Mvula, the male leopard we saw, got into a bit of a tussle with one. Leopards will occasionally feed on porcupine, but it's dangerous business because they've obviously got all those quills that they defend themselves with. And what they'll do to defend themselves against an animal like a leopard is they'll just continually to reverse themselves back at it, and they'll try and keep their head, their soft part of their body, away from the leopard and keep their back rearing in, pushing those spiky quills towards the animal. And even though leopards can catch porcupines, they will often end up with one or two quills in them. Cool. I tripped over a small stump there, that would have been a little bit embarrassing. Another massive termite mound here. I mean, look at the size of it in comparison to me. Again, I'm about 6 foot tall. Look at how much bigger this is. All built again by tiny, tiny little insects. And I know in cities, and us as humans don't particularly like termites because they will often cause a nuisance for us, eat the frameworks of our houses or our furniture. But in nature they fit in perfectly because they break down a lot of the dead plant matter that no other animals would ordinarily be able to break down and recycle back into the nutrient cycle. Just heard something rustling up ahead of us here. There's a lot of dead leaf litter. Now I'm guessing it's either a snake or a lizard. Just going to keep creeping forward. It's up ahead to the left here. Come along, don't be too nervous. I'm guessing it's probably a plated lizard, but possibly a snake. And if it was a snake or even a lizard, what it's probably done is it's just slithered away into a burrow or a place where it's safe. Would have seen these large figures approaching and thought, there's no ways I'm hanging around here. Not worth taking any chances. The noise was coming from here somewhere. I just want to have a closer investigation in case it is a friendly snake species that we would be able to get up close and personal with. And there are quite a few friendly, by friendly I mean non-venomous snakes in this area. But in the same breath there's also quite a few highly venomous snakes. Thankfully though, even the most highly venomous of snakes are generally not aggressive towards us as humans. Here's something quite interesting. It'll give you an idea how hard some of the woods in this area are, or some of the trees. This is one of the bush willows, and the bush willows make up the family of the heaviest woods in this area, the Combretum family. And look at all of this dead, burnt bark in here. And it's just so solid and so hard that even once a raging fire had burnt this much of the tree, obviously the wind died out and fire conditions became less favorable, so it naturally just died out simply because this wood is just so dense and burns over such long periods of time. So we're fortunate enough to do a lot of our cooking and barbecuing over bush willow coals. It's the best way to have a barbecue, or a braai as we would call it in our area of the planet, and it's something we do a lot as South Africans. Anyway, enough about our cooking techniques over here in South Africa. It's time to get you back onto Jamie's vehicle to recap what a wonderful morning she's had, especially with those wild dog, as well as a few other things. Thanks so much for joining the show, everyone, the safari, and well done to VM on camera, both on the vehicle and on the walk. It's been a great pleasure. We're going to head back to the vehicle and catch up with you all on the Sunset Safari a little bit later.
I'm sitting parked right at the corner, just far enough away from the wild dogs that I'm not part of that sighting. And there is a chance that one of the vehicles is going to pull out and let us go in quickly before they return to the sighting. I'm just waiting for them to get hold of me. So I'm listening very intently to my Game Drive channel. So if every now and again my eyes go slightly unfocused, oh, I think we have our opportunity. Here comes Andrew. We might get our last few moments with those wild dogs. Oh, Andrew's the best. We have a big thank you to say to Andrew from Cheetah Plains. He's helped us out immensely. Thank you, man. You're the best. Sharp. Hey, guys. guys, if you want to send Andrew some nice messages. Mention that we're going to see one of the most endangered mammals that we have out here. And Tima, you were wondering why it is that wild dogs are so endangered. Is it a lack of space, or is it because they are poached? And the answer is a combination. First of all, they're seen as a threat to livestock in terms of killing things like sheep and cows. So unfortunately, and up until the middle part of the 20th century, it was accepted conservation practice to be rid of them. They were seen as vermin, as pests. Crazy to think that now, but that is what they were thought of back then. That was the general conservation. Even in terms of conservationists, they thought of them as something to be eradicated. I'm going to shift forward slightly so we can see the sleeping bundle of puppies. Oh, sorry, right on top of the other vehicle. But we do have a bit of a view of the pups all gone to sleep. So right up until the middle of the 20th century, even in conservation terms, even within Kruger at the beginning of the 20th century, they thought that it was acceptable conservation practice to rid the area of what was seen as vermin. You're going forwards, not backwards. That's cool. Thank you. A wonderful way to finish off our day. Sorry, man, just for the last few minutes of our show.
Cameraman, can I go fast?
Can you go? Sharp, thank you. We have some wonderful information for our last few moments from Grant, who works for the Endangered Wildlife Trust, and we say a big thank you to Grant. This is apparently the half-tailed pack, the Sabi Sands half-tailed pack. Amazing stuff. Thank you, Grant, for that information and for sharing it with our viewers. It's so wonderful to get on top of all of the different animals. And this must be the pack, that's why we're seeing so many pups, where both the alpha and the beta female had pups. It's not unheard of, but it is quite a rare situation for both the alpha and the beta female to breed and survive. Here's an elephant walking in the background. And we've touched on some amazing things. Maggie's sending us information that if a single pup begs for food, then they won't get it, but if a group begs, then they will all get food. It's all part of the incredible dynamics of a wild dog pack and that level of subservience that they practice essentially from puppyhood. Guys, we can't extend the show, but I just want to say a big thank you to you all, and a big thank you to Andrew for making space for us, and to Tebs for his wonderful camera work. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we will catch up with you for the Sunset Safari. Have a great time.